Huge. Yeah. All for you. Take a seat.
Oh, okay.
How was day one of Metro Comic Con?
It was great. It's like I can't say enough how like kind and friendly I am finding the Australians. Maybe it's the Melbourne Australians. But everyone's just been so lovely. It's like seems like a very like relaxed energy at this con. Everything's going very smooth. At least that's been my experience. I hope it's been yours. But yeah, it was a great first day.
Right. What was your highlight?
Ooh. I mean, I got to do some pretty fun photo ops. I have not had the opportunity, and I had several opportunities to take photos with people. I'm gonna swear. Are we all good with that? Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm on the voice, you know. Beating the shit out of people, which is just that was fun. So that was a highlight. We got more fun photos, I think, than I've ever gotten to do before yesterday.
Go Melbourne.
Yeah, I was gonna say that's the dark side, right?
Is this your first time in Australia?
It is, yes.
Are you experiencing the delights of Australian cuisine?
I'm eating food. What are the I don't know. You tell me, what are the delights?
What is an Australian cuisine that we would recommend to Valorie?
Hawaiian pizza.
No. Then no.
Hawaiian pizza? How is that Australian? It's Hawaiian.
It's Australia's most favorite.
I see.
A Bunnings Snag.
What's a Bunnings Snag?
100%.
Am I saying that right?
Pavlova.
It's a what?
Sausage and bread that you get at a hardware store.
Specifically at a hardware store.
Yes.
We need to talk to Home Depot about doing snacks.
It's a charity that is run on the weekends at the Bunnings hardware store.
Specifically Bunnings.
Specifically
so that is a Bunnings
Bunnings hardware.
Snack.
A Bunnings snack.
Okay.
So
Okay.
$2 delicious sausage and bread with onion if you so choose.
I have not been to Bunnings yet, but it's on the list now.
Absolutely. There's a few, they're everywhere.
Tim Tams.
Tim Tams, I had gluten-free Tim Tams. I put it on my Instagram last night because those are so fucking good. I'm gonna have to figure out how to order those. And also I have celiac, so I don't know if I can have a Bunnings snack.
Okay.
But the gluten-free Tim Tams. And I'm finding it very accommodating with celiac, so I appreciate that. Thank you, Melbourne.
The Tim Tams are crack. Okay, hands up and the volleys will come with a microphone if there is not one.
You'd like me to deep dive?
Oh,
So, you started your career as a voice actor in a lovely video game called Detroit. Do you plan on doing voice acting again in the future?
You know, actually, like, not to correct the deep dive, but I didn't start my career as a voice actor. No, I'm so sorry.
I tried.
No, I started doing TV and film before that. I actually was my first job was on Veronica Mars.
Not picked that. It's one of my favorite shows.
That's okay. And also, like, I don't even consider myself a voice actor because with Detroit, we were doing, I mean, I think, I could be wrong, but I believe it was the first simultaneous motion capture that was used for video games. So rather than, the character being modeled and me doing the voiceover work, and those being separate, or what it would have been up until that point, where you sort of are capturing your body movements on the stage, and then you're capturing your facial movements in like a paneled situation where you're just sitting still, and then you're also capturing the voice and the audio. We were doing it all at once, so it was in that sense no different than screen acting. And I would not consider myself a voice actor because I have never done it, but I would love the opportunity. And in terms of motion capture, yeah, I mean, I feel very lucky to have had the opportunity to do that, and also in that way where it was sort of such a new technology or a new format for it. And I would love to do that again with the right project, Kripe.
Acting is formidable in real life as it was captured on the screen.
I don't know that I would say that it was more formidable. I think everyone in the cast is incredibly talented, and what I love about that cast in particular, and what was exciting to me coming in season 4, is that it's like jumping on a moving train, really, and you have to be so committed because everybody is so committed and takes the work so seriously, and you know, I've been on a number of sets where it's like people treat, you know, the first few like a rehearsal, or you know, you give like not 100% on the wides, and maybe sort of you're saving it for close-ups, you're saving it for your coverage, and that is not the case on the boys. Like everyone is 110% out of the gate. You're coming out swinging, and that's how I prefer to work anyway. So I love that, and I think that's the thing. And I think for a character like Homelander, like that race is formidable, but the reality is like on set, everyone is just giving their all the time.
Firecracker. Now, from what I understand of you as a person, that the character was very different to who you are, what you believe in. How much did that test you to play such a character? Like, there's a time when you read the script and went, holy shit, you know, do I really have to do this?
You know, in terms of like the politics, those were not things that I found hard or like, I don't know, like I was wary when I would read it about how to portray it, or the fact that I was going to, because it always felt like in those moments where this show is satirizing, you know, American politics and American politicians. Those are in some ways those are the most fun moments because we're taking the piss out of them, you know? And because it's one of the things I love about the show is it's incredibly unambiguous and unafraid to spotlight these things and spotlight these people, and you know, and they're absolutely abhorrent and violent, not only like rhetoric but platforms and actions. And so I loved being able to do that. It just felt like I got to fucking name it every time I got to do that. I think the things honestly that I found more challenging over time, like if we're going deep, is you know, Firecracker also, she wasn't just a satire, I mean she was a lot of things, right? But like part of it, when we were creating the character, which was a months-long process of building a suit before I ever started shooting. And I think a lot of the people who play suits would agree, like that really informs who you are. You learn a lot about who you are through the suit, right? Is that she was going to be, and this is not something I knew until we started this process, that she was going to sort of represent the most male gaze, you know, sexualized female superhero character in that like way where, you know, in a comic book, like they couldn't physically exist in space with those proportions or in those positions, right? That she was going to be that, and that I thought was so correct, because we're also talking about a way that women who are trying to access power through proximity to power within patriarchal systems can use sexuality, but it's still, I don't know, like that weird double-edged sword to self-objectification. And I've never played a character who is so, revealed, who is so sexualized, who so self-objectifies, and that actually was what I found hard over time. In the beginning, it was fun. It was like being a clown. I very much felt like I was in like high femme drag, and that was what kind of allowed me to do it. Was how much it was her mask, how much it was her armor, and how much she needed this to feel powerful in a room full of men. But that was the thing I think that over time.
I noticed on her bio that she says childless cat lady. I want to ask if she has any cats in
out
the
of like full body makeup and all of it, and I just wanted to be a gremlin in sweats every second I wasn't in that suit and those 8-inch heels. Over here, hello.
Hi, I'm a really big fan of your work, and
Thank you.
I just want to know, and did you ever play Detroit Become Human? And if you did, was it really weird seeing yourself on the screen like that?
No, I did not play Detroit Become Human. And I'll be honest, when I first got cast in the tech demo of Kara, the short film that preceded the game, I tried to play Heavy Rain, which was their game that had been out previously, and like, this sounds so stupid, but I feel like at this point, if you haven't been gaming for a long time, using the controller is like playing a musical instrument, you know? I couldn't get past like the first room I was in because I kept walking into walls and things. So I was like, you know what, this is fine. I'm gonna be an actor today. But my brother is a gamer, and we did like a Let's Play thing, and on his Twitch stream where he played and we talked about it, which was fun, and that was kind of the way I got to see scenes more than anything else.
Right down the front.
Hi Valerie, welcome to Melbourne.
Thank you.
I noticed on your Instagram bio you say you're a childless cat lady. I'm the same. I'm just wondering if you have any cats. If so, what are their names?
Oh my God, let's talk about the cats. Can we get like a clap for the cats? I have a dog too. But like, and I am a cat person. Yes, I have 2 cats. One is named Bits because she and my dog were babies together, so they're Bits and Bobs. And he's a black lab, and they are the bosses in the house. Like he's fully, yeah. If one of them gets into any of his beds, he will just look helplessly at us and like, do something. And she's like 8 pounds and has like 4 of her teeth left. You know what I mean? But she's the dictator in the house. And then, does anybody know the actress Fiona Shaw? This keeps coming up. Do we know Fiona Shaw? Yeah, okay. My cat's name is Fiona Shaw. If you don't know her, look her up tonight. Watch any number of the things she's in. Highly recommend Killing Eve. That was on at the time. Fiona was almost named Villa now. So Fiona Shaw Curry is the other cat.
Yeah.
That's so cute.
For me to go home and watch tonight, what we can pick.
Wow. Okay, it's this movie on Netflix that came out in 2020. It is one of my favorite movies. It's one of my comfort movies. I've probably watched it like 400 times, and I don't think a lot of people have seen it. It is called Eurovision. The story of Fire Saga. Rachel McAdams is a gem and a treasure, and it's a comedy that is about the Eurovision Song Contest, but it's so well done. The music is amazing. It's ridiculous. Dan Stevens is just like sublime in it. Who's seen it? Somebody's seen it. Come on, Dan Stevens is that amazing. But it makes me cry every single time at the end. It got nominated and was robbed for an Oscar. It was robbed.
As what's a project that you have taken part in that you the most proud of, but doesn't get enough attention?
Oh, I mean, it's funny. I was really proud of a film that I did in, I think it came out in 2016. It's an adaptation of a Philip Roth novel, American Pastoral, which is like very dark and very hard to adapt. And it was Ewan McGregor's directorial debut, and the cast was just absolutely unbelievable. He starred in it, and I played a supporting role, and I was very proud of that work. And that was one that kind of just like, I guess, was a little bit of a quieter film in terms of how it was received. But I had such an amazing experience, largely because Ewan was just. It was kind of another villain role. So if you like that, you might like this. It's pretty edgy, it's pretty dark, and Ewan was just the most wonderful director who created such a safe space, and I had to do some like extreme things in that, and he could not have been a more supportive director, and I had just such a wonderful experience making that, and so that's something that I'm proud of. And then, yeah, I guess I would say similarly, a show that I did before The Boys. It's a Dan Brown adaptation. It's called The Lost Symbol, and we only did 1 season. Oh, you know it!
Dan Brown fan.
Big Dan Brown fan. And that was something that, again, it's like the experience. I always try to sort of value the experience and keep that as the important thing for me, and whatever comes of it in terms of like how the production ends up, because there's a million hands it goes through from what we do on the set to what you see on the screen, or like how it's received. I try to keep that very separate from what my experience is, which is why I think a lot of actors don't necessarily want to watch their projects, because that feels like something else, you know? What we have is what we do on the set, and making that show and making that during the pandemic when we were locked down in Canada, so it was a bubble. We were a bubble, and that cast, we just loved each other, and there were such incredible creatives behind that, And I had a wonderful time making that one. So, you know, if you haven't seen it, go watch it. It's on Peacock. I did audition for another role earlier in the show. I guess I can say this, like it's all done now. And I did not get far at all. So, ironically, I auditioned for Stormfront. Yeah, I know. And Aya Cash is brilliant. So I think it's one of those sort of kismet things sometimes when, and there have been other shows like that where I will have auditioned for other things and eventually the right role happens, you know, because we have to be the right, there's something, I don't know, there's something like energetic, and I'm pretty woo about like it being the right character to resonate with the actor, and that's a very kind of reciprocal thing. And even though there's some similarities that I know people point out between like Stormfront and Firecracker, I think they're very different, and I'm glad I didn't get it so that I could play Firecracker.
The Boys obviously has a lot of grossed out characters who have crazy powers and whatever the case may be. But what character grosses you out the most that's on that show?
Webweaver. It's like really, really easy. Webweaver. I talk about this a lot. Like his death was was the most disturbing scene that I was a part of filming on set. Just his death was so gross, and like our effects team is incredible, and a lot of what you see on the show is actually a practical effect, so it's a real thing that's been made as opposed to it being CGI. So when he gets ripped open and his guts come pouring out and the blood is pouring out on the floor, like that was all real and happening right in front of me. Like it still turns my stomach. And then the team would come in and they put him back together anatomically correctly. It was so gross. Like I think it made it in the show that like I was truly desperate to get out of that room every time he died, and I was like slipping on the blood in those boots to like run out. But also, my God, he was gross in life and he was gross in death. I don't know, what do you think was the grossest?
I don't think I could handle someone at a huge giant penis.
It's the fluid though with Webweaver for me, you know what I mean? Like, yeah, I stand by that, but I understand love sausage is most people's standout.
I got lost in that conversation.
Maybe onto a slightly nicer topic. Thank you for being here with us this weekend.
Thank you for having me.
And I guess, yeah, on that topic, what's the most rewarding kind of experience with fans for you?
I mean, I like this. I tend to cry when I talk about this. So of course I won't now because I said that. But I have been very surprised because of the character that I play. That like how many interactions I've had with young queer fans, and no, it's happening. And I didn't expect that to play like, you know, a raging transphobe, homophobe. And as a lesbian myself, as a queer person, you know, playing that, I didn't expect that to resonate with people, especially young people, because of what I was talking about, because it's spotlighting the way in which they're being targeted. And so to have played something like that that's so abhorrent, but then to be able to like have the fans come and I get to like sign pride flags and take pictures with them with that, and like I don't know, that they see that, they understand what we were doing with that character, and that means the world to me. That means more to me than anything. So yeah.
The storyline, like, because obviously I watched it and like I didn't realize it was so gory and bloody and
nobody warned you.
Correct, in a way. So just wondering what drew you to it.
Well, it wasn't the gore. That's not generally, you know, my cup of tea, as you may have gathered from my response to Webweaver. But I think I know that the reason was because playing a character like Firecracker could be a risk. you know, as an actor, as a person. And I think that there have been other things that have sort of like come across my desk, so to speak, that are characters trying to sort of comment on the same thing. You know, fascism, white nationalism, and white supremacy. And the reason that I felt not just comfortable, but like excited to do it in this world is because they had, at that point, the third season had just come out, and there were 3 seasons of evidence to show me that Eric Kripe and the whole team was able to sort of to tell these stories. Like, I was so impressed by how they handled Me Too, and that first episode of the first season, the way that it depicted the deep assault of Starlight, and I was like, I knew that the tone of the show was going to be unambiguous, and that was what was so important to me. You know, that like, if we're going to play this, if we're going to make this character happen, if I'm going to play this character, then there has to be like no ambiguity about the fact that she's a fucking villain. You know, and like, she went out in a way that I think exposed some humanity and complexity, but it never redeemed her. You know, he has these villains, but he explains them without excusing them. And so that made me feel like I could come in and I could really feel free to sort of like let go in this character and know that like the satire was going to read, and if people who didn't get it, like, that's none of my business, but like, that the story we were telling had a strong point of view, if that makes sense? Yeah.
Did you have any moments that you felt...
Oh, where am I looking?
Hey,
hi.
Did you have any moments where you're like, oh wow, we're going this far? Do you have a moment where you're like, is this too far? Because it felt like the boundaries continuously got pushed. So did you have a moment where you were like, we're going this far now?
Like in terms of the politics of it?
All politics, in terms of the gore, in terms of anything. Did you, because it felt like every season got bigger and bigger in terms of scope and in terms of...
Yeah, I mean, what's ironic, the time when I felt like that, when it was like, oh, this is disturbing, this is a lot, wasn't reading the scripts, and it wasn't making it, it was watching season 5 in the current context. Like, they wrote, and this isn't a cop-out, it's like they wrote those scripts like almost 2 years before they came out. And Kripe has talked about this before, is that like the goal was to write the most outlandish worst case scenario, you know, to completely overshoot the mark so that like, so that we're not mimicking reality, but it's more of like a fantasy of like, you know, the apocalyptic sort of fantasy, right? And so that's what we thought we were doing, you know, that there was something more ridiculous or absurd about it. And so, you know, to sit, I didn't watch the episodes of the screeners before they started coming out. So like, I saw the premiere of season 5 at the premiere, which we did like a big theater like this, and watching the camps in episode 1 of season 5 while everything is happening in the US with people being, you know, people being put in camps, and the violence of ICE and the government, like, you know, I'm really upset, but it's just, that was really disturbing. It was really disturbing, and the idea that like reality was arcing that way is so upsetting, you know, and I think it is part of why the tone of that season is darker, and it's more grounded, and in a way that it didn't even necessarily intend to be more grounded, because it was not supposed to be realistic, you know? So it was like, I think like everybody else watching the show, it was like experiencing it along with like the current events. It's more disturbing than like reading it.
The script is pretty good at planning ahead. I know he did that with Supernatural and whatnot, so he had a plan in place, but then what was his view on the fact that we got to this point and it's like, whoa, this is reality and this is fantasy, but it's kind of seeming a little bit closer.
Well, I can't speak for Kripe, but I don't think he was very happy either. I think he was pretty upset. I think we were all pretty disturbed, and it's just insane. Like, the same week that the Golden Homelander cross gets revealed, the giant golden Trump statue gets revealed. It's just it's really weird, you know? Nobody wanted it to mirror life that closely.
All right, Valorie, another question. So you have had an absolute amazing career doing multiple roles in many movies, TV series, things like that. Have you got a favourite memory for an outtake that you've done many mistakes?
Oh, my mistakes?
Yes.
I don't know. It's like, I think of all the funny outtakes are in comedies, right? And The Boys is the only comedy that ever let me be funny. Like, I'm always the straight person if I'm in something funny, which is, that's no fun, because that's just me trying not to break while I'm surrounded by really talented, hilarious people, you know? My favorite outtake is a story from season 4, I think season 4 of The Boys. And Colby Menifee, who plays Ashley, is so incredible. She is so talented, and if you think she's a scene stealer when you watch it, being in the room with her is just like, it's like nothing else. I told her this once, that there's this sort of like trope story thing that I've heard before about like how you can't have a cat on stage, right, in a play, because all the actors are gonna look bad, because a cat is just being a cat. Right? And they're automatically gonna look so much more real and realistic and alive than whatever we're doing. Being on stage with Colby is like being on stage with a cat, because she just like is so alive and brave. And so there was this outtake that didn't make it, and it's like, honestly, I don't know whose decision that was, but I have grievances. We were in like the 7 boardroom, right? Everybody's sitting around. There's a moment when like I think Homelander dismisses her, and she's dropped everything on the floor, all of her papers, and she's trying to gather them up really quickly and run out the door as the doors are automatically closing. Like he's just sent her out and not even waited to close the doors. And I'm not gonna tell this as well now, but like, he dismisses her, she gets down on her knees and she's fumbling for the papers, and she's always in these giant stilettos and these tiny little skirts, right? And she goes to stand up and her heel has been caught in her skirt. So what she does, because she's fucking committed to the bit, you know, and this is the thing with the show, is like we all just keep going or riffing or improvising until the camera stops, you know? So she panics and is on the floor and tries to get up, can't get up, so she starts crawling on her hands and knees in her tiny little like wiggle skirt as the doors are fucking, like the real giant doors are closing, and she's just like scrambling on her hands and knees and makes it out like, it's just in time as the doors close behind her. And everyone else in the whole room had been like silent the entire time while she's having this, like, she's basically doing a stunt. And the entire room, as soon as the doors close, of the cast and the crew just erupts in applause because it was the funniest and most impressive and really dangerous and ill-advised choice I've ever seen.
As like an unambiguous villain, which I think she is, but there's also moments of real vulnerability in her arc, especially in like the final episode that you do. I'm wondering how important it is for you to feel, like whether you do feel empathy for her in those moments, and whether that's important in connecting to the character, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I had a lot more opportunity to empathize and connect in a way that I wasn't expecting in season 5 and in those last episodes. You know, when I first auditioned for Firecracker, the only things I knew about her and what I had sort of as my material were that she was like this far-right conspiracy theorist podcaster, her Alex Jones style, you know, rant that I had to do, and it was the scene that ended up making it to the show, confronting Starlight and talking about what she'd done. And to me, as soon as I read it, like that's what connected me and what clicked is like, this is an unhealed child. This is it connecting to the pain that, to me, it's like she is vibrating with it all the time. Like it is so close to the surface, and that's part of why like the performance and the face and the mask and the clothes and the makeup and all of that armor is so important, because she is just like, it's right there on the surface. She's this raw nerve, you know? And so connecting to that trauma and that is what everything is coming out of, that was essential for me when I started building the character and when I first connected with it. And then I was so grateful that they gave me the storyline that they did at the end, at her end, in season 5. And I wasn't expecting it. I was so surprised when I had a conversation with Kripe when we first came back about like, okay, what's my arc gonna be at the end? And he's talking about this sort of, you know, the Homelander religion, and you know, and he's like, and I think, you know, in her heart, she really believes in Jesus. And I was like, because at that point, like, I'd sort of been playing her like, she doesn't believe in anything. She'll just say anything and everything, and she's disconnected from all of it. And I think that's who she had been, right? And so this was a story about her finding her limit and realizing that she can't just say and do anything without it impacting her. And I also, it was really important to me as we were talking about that arc and building that arc, that like treating that crisis of faith seriously, you know, and taking that really seriously. And because I come from a religious background, I know like how hard that would be, and also like the implications of it, right? It's like if she's evangelical, like deep down, she's going to hell if she does this. Like this isn't just like, it's not even just betraying her father figure, this pastor. Like it's her soul, and she says that in last scene. She's like, I gave you my soul, and there's so much in that. Like I could talk about that forever, but it's like it's even part of like the betrayal of Homelander, and like whatever shred of like love she still had for him, that he could ask that of her. You know, it's like I wanted to treat that really seriously, and I'm so glad he did. I'm so glad that this character, who was a clown a lot of the time, that crisis wasn't the joke. It wasn't the butt of the joke in the end, and it could have been. And I was so surprised at how that resonated with people when it came out in a lot of different ways. But like, but I found myself empathizing with her in ways I never had, and like doing that scene with the pastor in the diner. It came right back to her as a child. Like I felt like she's so childlike in that scene. She's so without armor, without protection, and we see how fragile she really is. And none of that excuses or redeems who she is and what she's done because she's in pain. You know, not the least of which being, you know, rape. But that's the kind of complexity that I think it needed, and I think it's a hard line to walk as writers, to have that complexity and to bring that humanity without redeeming and without excusing and still having that point of view about her. And I think that's the thing about the abruptness of her death as well, is like, yes, we see her as a person, we see the conflict, and there's so much pathos and there's so much to connect to, but at the end of the day, she had a choice. And it was too little too late. You know, we watched A-Train make that choice in the first episode and what it cost him. And she had a moment. You know, I don't think she knew what she was going to do when she sat down for that truth bomb show. I think it was in that moment she decided as she's saying the words. And in the end, that didn't mean anything anyway. Like I said, I could like rant about this forever, but like, the empathy is everything. And it's one of the things that I found challenging about this character is, it's our job as actors not to judge our characters, even if they're villains, and it's not ever been hard for me before, but like, she's the furthest from me I've ever played, and she felt like a mask I put on and I took off. And at times it was hard not to feel disdain for her as an actor, you know? But again, it's like I'm really, really couldn't be more grateful to Eric Kripe and the writers for giving me something as an actor that I could connect to. And I think that's part of what's so disturbing about her death is like the audience found themselves connecting to her too, and nobody expected to sympathize with Firecracker. It's a very long answer to your question.
Hi there.
Hello.
Hi. So a bit of a fun question.
Yeah, let's go.
If you could go back into history and play any character from any show, movie, who would you play? Like Doc Brown, Dorothy Gale?
Wow, I've never thought about that. Oh, I wish I had something like off the top of my head that I could say. I think any of Katharine Hepburn's roles.
Ooh.
You know?
Classic.
Yeah, classic. And like some of them are like, or like Emma Thompson is my like
Amazing, yeah.
Yeah. And I think about her in like Sense and Sensibility, which is one of my favorite films. I know there's a new one. That will forever be the peak one. But yeah, Katharine Hepburn's roles, even the ones she aged into, Lion in Winter, come on. And Philadelphia Story when she was younger, I think that would be where I would go.
Is someone that can play a role where people absolutely despise.
Do they say that?
Yeah, I mean, like, there's been a lot of, like, can we read Jack Gleason, who played Joffrey.
By the way, I just watched House of Guinness. Has anybody watched this yet?
Not yet.
He's so good in it.
Yeah.
He's so good and so different. It took me forever to realize it was him. Highly recommend.
But again, I mean, like, who you played versus who you are as a person. I mean, I've got to tell you, when she died, I went, thank fuck for that, because God, she was horrid, right?
Yes, she was.
But that is credit to you. Credit to you, because that is amazing. I know you talked about Aya, you talked about Anthony, you talked about Colby, but holy shit, man, you were unreal, and that was so.
You hated her more than Homelander?
Yeah, like, honestly, you know what? Homelander was a piece of shit. We know that. Like, you went Firecracker, not far behind, right?
I'll take it.
Massive credit to you, man. Well done.
Thank you so much. I think I love playing a villain. Frankly, it's just so much more interesting. And I get no greater compliment than when people say that they love to hate me, because that's me doing my job playing a villain. If you enjoy watching it, I want her to get her comeuppance and her just desserts, but like hopefully not too soon, because it's fun to watch her be terrible in the meantime, right?
And I know in this interview you said that you would listen to like early Kesha to get into character. Was there any sort of like processes you went through to stay in the accent, or if there was any sort of like tricks to get in there, if it was hard to stay in accent while shooting?
It's not hard to stay in the accent when I'm shooting. I love doing accent work. I went to school for theater, and dialects was one of my just favorite courses to do, and breaking them down and learning how to do them. And a character's voice is very important to me. It's usually kind of the first intuitive thing I key into. And it's funny, the journey with Firecracker's accent, because when we were in prep, there were multiple conversations about what it was going to be, because a lot of people from Florida don't have an accent, you know. But it depends on where you are in Florida, you know, and a lot of people have almost no detectable accent. But then if you're in like Floribama by the Alabama border, like that gets real intense. And so before we started, I had worked on doing something that was like, it was there, but it wasn't heavy, right? And I have a friend from Florida who kept telling me like, pull it back, you know, do less. And, but then I went to shoot my first episode, and our director, Karen, who directs most episodes, and she's fantastic, I love her, she kind of kept me, she's like, I need more, do more. I'm like, what does more mean? Like, am I going to a different state? What are we doing? And I kept kind of going further with it in this way that, I'm gonna be honest, I felt very caricature doing it. At times, slightly McConaughey, but afterwards I was like, what did I do? Was this right? Was this the right accent? But what helped me in that, and I don't know if this is something that reads when you watch the show, hope it does, is that even her accent to a large degree is part of her performance. And sometimes she slides around those southern states. Sometimes she's from Texas, sometimes she's a little Georgian, you know what I mean? When I was watching White Lotus, it got a little, Piper, no. But that's part of her performance too, because she is just playing this kind of, she's playing a caricature to appeal to the sort of general South. And so in scenes that are like genuinely intimate, like the scenes with Soldier Boy in particular, and the scene with her pastor, like and they were totally behind me with this choice, Eric and the other creators, is I pulled it way back to try to sort of indicate how much of that is also put on, just like everything else with her. But it also made it gave me a pass for when I was a little slippery with my accent.
Over here.
Hi.
Hello. I was wondering how you're able to get yourself to comfortably play parts that you're not so comfortable with, like the vulgarity and the disdain of the character in The Boys, or the vulnerability that you have to play in Detroit. How do you do that in a way that you can really sell it when you're not really comfortable playing it?
Well, I mean, when I talked about the discomfort earlier, I think that for me was more about me as a person embodying that. I mean, like the clothes, the sexualization of her, you know, or her self-sexualization. And but in terms of the characters themselves, there's not really anything that I have felt like was uncomfortable. I can be quite vulgar, so that's fine. And the vulnerability that's the best bit to connect to in any character. With Detroit in particular, I think one of the things that was such a gift was working with Audrey, who played Alice, and you know we filmed the scenes over, I want to say it was like a course of like 2 years, because I would go to Paris and I would shoot for a few weeks, like 50 pages a day. And then I would go home and they would animate for a few months. I'd come back a couple months later and we'd do it again. And it was like that, so it was like in these kind of stages. And so I got to work with Audrey for a really long time. I'd never gotten to have that relationship with like a child actor before. She was so lovely. She's like a whole adult now. It's really weird. And so that connection was like, it was just there, that feeling of like, even as an actor, and she was so young, and I think it was like one of her first acting experiences, like genuinely feeling protective of her and wanting to make sure like taking care of her throughout the day and like on the breaks and things, and yeah, I just sort of felt very like big sisterly, I think. And so anytime you get to create genuine bonds with other actors, it makes it so much more accessible when you have those like vulnerable or intimate or emotional scenes with them.
Out of all your pets, which one is the most well-behaved and the most naughtiest?
And the most, what's the last one?
The most naughtiest.
Most naughtiest. Well, my partner and I have a little game that we play. Sometimes it's every week, sometimes it's every day, which is the best pet, worst pet, favorite pet, least favorite pet of the day. And so that's sort of gauging their naughtiness and how well behaved they are. I would say generally at this point, because he's a mature gentleman, Bobby, my dog, is generally the best behaved. Sometimes not, but generally the best behaved. I live in the woods in upstate New York, and so there's a lot of things for him to get into. That's when he's the naughtiest, because I don't know how to say this without being vulgar, but he really likes to wear what the bears leave behind. If that means anything to anybody? Dogs like to roll in gross things. It's the worst. But generally he's the best. The naughtiest generally is Bits, who is the little cat who weighs 8 pounds and has about 4 teeth. She is a tiny dictator, and I got her as a rescue when she was teeny tiny, like way too young to have been weaned. She was rescued in Brooklyn, and she had been very sick. So I've had her since she was about 4 weeks old, which means if anybody has a Velcro cat, is what we call it, or a 7th level clinger. She wants to live inside my skin all the time. And she wants to be held like a baby all the time. And I love her, and she is my soul outside my body, but if she doesn't get the attention she wants, she is that cat who will like make direct eye contact and knock my stuff over and break things. She doesn't get to sleep in the bedroom because if she wakes up at 3 in the morning and she wants me to be awake, she'll break everything on my nightstands. And she really hates my phone. Does anybody else have a cat that knows about the phone? Like, she will grab it with her paws, she will chew on it if I'm looking at it and scrolling instead of looking at her. She will literally attack the phone if she can and try to like whack it out of my hands. So she's generally the naughtiest, but I love her.
It's obviously a pretty explicit metaphor for things like
sexism and racism. And I was wondering, was there particularly a scene that you were filming that kind of maybe hit really close and brought your performance, or I guess the whole room, to another level, that you think left a really good impact on everyone in the room and also people playing and watching at home?
I mean, yeah, I have sort of two different answers to that. I think in terms of what you're referencing with the, the themes of the game, it was very hard to play the scenes in the camp. And I know a lot of people who play it don't necessarily experience that because it's kind of a weird branch of the branch of storylines. And there's not a lot of ways, once you're in, there's no getting out of that branch. And that one was just like, it still kind of like gives me shivers when I remember like scenes like when she comes in and they sort of like, essentially sort of like, it's like being stripped naked for her, but it's because they take her sort of human facade off. And it was just very bleak, and it was really disturbing. I didn't like doing those scenes. But in terms of what was the most moving and I felt had the kind of impact I think you're talking about, and again, this kind of I think goes back to the relationship I had built with Audrey at that point. And at the border, there's a lot of different ways that it can go, and ways that you either do or don't proceed. And the one that just hit me, and I still remember so clearly, was the choice for Kara to sacrifice herself so that Luther could take Alice across. And as I remember it, Kara realizes what she has to do and like kneels down and has this like monologue saying goodbye to Alice about how much she's meant to her and how much she loves her before she's gonna go do this thing. And like, I was just a mess. And that was one where I will say humbly like this, there were people crying when we did that scene. And so like, again, like having relationships, sometimes being able to like look at another actor and have these kind of outpourings, it's just so easy when you can look at somebody that you genuinely care about and do that.